those lines.
Yeah, just maybe, or maybe those low lights by the parking areas for guests. It looks dark back
It's a
there.
pretty secluded area back there. I don't think that you're gonna have any effect on neighbors, and being that there's no change in the lighting that's already there, I don't know that there's any issue there.
Do they leave the lights on all night?
No.
Well, see, when they have guests, they may want to leave them on longer than they do now. So if there's no one there to turn them off, but you have guests coming in 11, 12 o'clock at night, maybe the owner goes to bed earlier, I don't know. Maybe you want to have something on a timer that shuts it down, say at 12 o'clock or 12:30 or something like that. But if the light level meets your no glare and 0.1 foot candles at the property line, I don't think you need to worry about it necessarily beyond that. There's no glow from that.
Unfortunately, I'm the one that has to fashion conditions, so I have to sort of divine the intent of the board. Does the board want to have any particular lights or all the lights on a timer, or are you satisfied with the restriction on the foot candles at the property line?
Well, my concern, why I'm bringing it up, is the parking, where the parking is. It's kind of, dark. So if, as you said, they came in late at night and there's no lights there.
Yeah, but regardless if the lighting level's limited at the property line, I don't see how turning it on or off is.
But there's two separate issues here. One is not disturbing the neighborhood by having a glowing too many lights, and that will be handled by the restrictions that they have. The question I think Sandy's raising is you want to have some safety lighting for the people that come in perhaps late at night. So that's a different issue. And
That's what I'm bringing up, the safety issue.
Are you saying that they should be left on all night?
Well, I don't know that it necessarily has to be those lights there, or can there be some, even if it's,
An additional light, you
yeah,
say?
something by the parking area. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about over here.
you can require that they have minimal safety lighting in the parking lot.
Okay.
Let's require that. That sounds like
Yeah.
a reasonable request. Minimum safety level.
You'll put that on the plans rather than have it in the condition. I would assume you put it on the plans with the details so that Dennis can review it and determine if that's appropriate.
Well, I don't really think that there's a need to add any additional lighting. I think they.
But the planning board does.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is I think that the existing lighting will illuminate that parking area sufficiently.
That's fine. Then you can cover that with a note too, that the existing lighting that's there will provide, you let me know what kind of level's out there, and it will remain on for the safety of when the guests are there.
So make sure that's all in the notes and in detail, and then Dennis will review it.
And then the only other question I had, Jason, on your narrative, I guess, or your answer to the last questions that we had on page 4 of 5. I'm just confused by the response as far as the driveway, because it says the site plan has been modified to show signs of a one-way circular traffic pattern in a counterclockwise direction. The site plan has been revised to show assigned directional arrows in the clockwise direction.
There may be a typo in there. The intent is to do the circulation in the counterclockwise, or the clockwise circulation around the driveway.
And I only saw one sign. I think there's one sign that's noted out in front here. The arrows that you show here are just directional. You're not going to paint arrows, I don't think. Okay. So you have the one sign.
Yeah, and I think there's only one intersection, and that's where the
Right.
sign.
And I would suggest to the board that one sign is adequate now, but if we have a condition that says that it's not, if they have to change a sign, if it becomes a problem, then the building inspector can require that. But I would think here you'd want to have a very subdued thing that,
Yeah.
just tells the people to go that way, that's all.
So is it clockwise or counterclockwise?
It is counterclockwise.
No. Counterclockwise or clockwise?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Clockwise.
No, that's clockwise.
That's clockwise.
He's going to turn left. Right here it says,
I actually looked at the clock, that's so.
it's just the directional sign. It's just a directional
Okay,
sign
that's-
establishing.
No, it's,
If Gary thinks that it's...
That's all I have.
He may need a bigger
I have a question. Jason, just to make sure that there's adequate water supply, how many full baths will be in the bed and bath?
One sign is what's on the plan is good.
Existing, right?
There's no plan to add anything. Again, you know, it's a bed and breakfast, but there's not laundry done there, there's not, you know, guests that are living there full-time, or people that are living there full-time, so I actually anticipate the water usage to be less.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions, Dennis, or the applicant? Yes, no? Public hearing be next, right? Rick?
Yes. We're, just so that you know, we will fashion a condition on the owner-occupied aspect as to what will be required. We'll likely require proof of residency, such as driver's license, voter registration, things like that, to ensure that the owner is actually the one who's living at that site, and provisions for Gary to enforce that, since that's a very central concept within the bed and breakfast regulations in the village. So it's not something that the owner can sort of be there occasionally and have somebody else there. The owner actually has to occupy it himself. We'll also fashion some conditions concerning the time for service of breakfast, restrictions on outdoor amenities and things like that. GML 239M, we got a local determination, so that's fine. And you do need to schedule a public hearing.
With the provision for the owner occupancy, is that something that we can require be submitted every year?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll make sure that's in the condition then?
right.
Okay.
Rick, I just have one question on the EAF. Under brief description of proposed action, site plan for the modification of TM number 276, sorry,
Yeah, they made a mistake.
6-4.1 and 4.2. Shouldn't 4.1 be taken out of there?
They still have an error in the EAF. They've clarified that it's only the one lot. I think we noted that previously.
Noticed in Dennis's memo, that we do want the EAF to be part of the record.
So you'll submit an amended one?
Yes.
Just if you would, so that it's clear, is to make sure that the date is different and that it notes amended on there. Thank you, Jason.
16th is our next meeting. Right, yeah.
Do we have the public hearing on the 1st of November meeting, that maybe the 6th, I believe? That is the end of
Yeah, if that's what your applicant would.
yeah, we're not available on that.
Okay. I'll make a motion for a public hearing on November 6th.
I second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
That's it, right, Rick?
Okay, good night, thank you.
Thank you. Central Valley Property Management, review and discuss proposed amended site plan to permit personal service use in existing structure, old TD Bank building. That property is located 252-260 Route 32 in Central Valley and is known as the Village of Woodbury Tax Maps, Section 230, Block 7, Lots 17, 18, and 19.
Good evening, Steve Esposito, representing CVMP. And we're here tonight to amend the previously approved site plan. This project received site plan approval in July of 2018 for mixed-use project, which includes the existing TD Bank. And what we'd like to do is amend the schedule of uses to include personal service. It's a permitted use in the HB zone, and both requirements are similar to those of, or consistent, I should say, with those of office and retail. When we first got approval, we, indicated that the TD Bank would either be either retail or office. Not knowing what who the end user would be, we now have a tenant who wants to come in and develop a children's playground for exercising and entertaining in that facility. So we would like to just add to the list of permitted uses personal services. Also, there's a lot of activity with other people out in the marketplace that would also be considered as personal service, like nail salon or beauty shop, barber, those types of things. So we'd like to get that as listed on the uses. There's another, they also would like to include an additional 360 square feet of interior space in a mezzanine in the TD Bank building. On the original approval, we had it designated as 2,400 square feet, and with that additional space, it would be 2,760 square feet, and that additional 360 square feet would require 2 additional parking spaces. We currently are proposing those as land banked in this area of the site right here, but if the board felt more comfortable, this could also be constructed at this time. And I just want to let you a little know about the building, the business. The building, and this is building code, not zoning code, but the building code would be the maximum certificate of occupancy would be 49 people, given the size of the building and the number of doorways for emergency access. But we don't anticipate having that many people in the building at any one time. The hours of operation are from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., with the peak hours being from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. There'll always be 3 staff members there full-time at any given time that the facility is open. There's no need to have a drop-off.
How many employees?
3 staff members full-time. And then there's also no need for a drop-off because the children have to be with parent or guardian. So, there's no need. This is not something that you would just drop a child off and they'd enter in there. The parent or guardian or caregiver would have to be with them.
And it's 7 days a week, 10 to 6?
I believe 7 days a week, 10 to 6.
Steve, will there be special events like birthday parties held there?
There's no real special events. If you wanted to have a birthday, you could have a birthday there. But there's no, the key to this one is there's no food service. So, it's not like a Chuck E. Cheese that offered food. This is really a little gymnasium for young children. It's going to have slides, ball pits, climbing apparatus, trampolines, those types of things.
And so you said the parents have to be there
Yeah.
during the time?
Correct.
So how many children at one time?
I'm sorry, you have to, and just let us know who you are too, please.
Hi, so my name is Alicia Andrushkevich. I am the one that are planning to open the playground, children's playground. So this is what it's supposed to look like, if I can pass it along. Sorry. So what was the question?
How many children at one time?
Well, 20 to 25.
20 to 25, and there would be 20 to 25 parents then?
Correct.
And they would all come, I assume, and park in there?
Well, not necessarily 20 to 25 parents, because some parents or guardians come in with more than one child, right? So,
Okay, so the maximum, there could be obviously 2 siblings or something like that, but or 2 together, but the maximum would be approximately 20 to 25 cars?
well, when I'm planning to have a website where you have to reserve, you can't just walk in, you have to reserve, so you indicate the amount of parents and children, and once the capacity fills up, you can't, more people can't come in. So it's going to be booked online, not as a walk-in.
One of the things the board needs to consider is, what is this impact? So there's a big difference of impact if you're trying to squeeze 150 people in there
Right.
versus 25 and have so many parking spaces. So the board needs to have some idea as to the max that you're going to do, and that will be included in the condition in a resolution, so that would be the max. So, and I'm not asking that, or the board is not asking that you identify this at this present time, but before this is approved, you really need to say, all right, we're not going to have any more than this many children and parents at one time, so the board can analyze that and decide the impacts.
Right, so this is what I have said earlier, that it's not going to be walk-in facility. You have to book it online. So, and you have to indicate the amount of children and adults coming in. So once that the spots fill up, like,
How many spots are that? That's what I'm asking.
oh, like I said, maximum 25 kids.
Okay.
But you did say the building occupancy is 49, correct?
If I could,
Go ahead.
that only relates to building code.
Right, but-
Not capacity, parking capacity or capacity for this particular facility. That's the maximum that the CO could be written for.
Yeah, but
And I think, just to touch on parking again, Alicia said that, when I've talked to her about it and I tried to get a handle because I know this was going to be a concern with parking. And we know that her peak hours
Right.
are from 3 to 6. We also know, based on the traffic analysis that we did for the original approval, the peak in the daytime peak starts to wane at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and on the weekend wanes at between 12 and 1 o'clock. So as the demand for parking for the other uses start to decrease, her peak would start to slightly go up again. And we anticipate somewhere between 15 and 18 parking spaces required.
the first thing you said is exactly right, that would be an issue that the board would need to understand and resolve. If you look at the personal service business and the space occupied, under our code, it calls for 14 spaces.
Correct.
Right? So there's basically 14 spaces required there. And the total is 82, but you provided 73. We land bank some, and you've received relief for others. When you take one particular building now, and it's designated for 14, and it's been reduced overall, and it has a need for perhaps 20 to 25, I think that the analysis of the time issue and the fact that it's not doesn't coincide with another peak use is important for the board to understand. And so I know you did a parking analysis previously. I think you'd have to do something that gives the board a comfort level that the peak values at both locations don't occur together, that there is ample parking. I know we've land banked a number of spaces, but you don't want the first week that you open, now all of a sudden we got to start digging up the land and putting those bank spaces in. So I think that does need some discussion and and the applicant's going to have to give you better advice and give you firm advice as to the peak numbers that they're looking at. If that's anticipated routinely, or that's, maybe there's peak times of the year. I don't know how that works, neither does the board. So since you have a specific use now, I think you can get more specific.
We can provide that, because the good news is, just looking at our data from the previous analysis and what I've gathered so far is that her peak is going to be on the weekends, 3 to 6, and we're way down on parking demand on the rest of the facility. So we'll provide that analysis for the board.
Okay. So. Do we have tenants? Do you have tenants for the other side yet?
No, not yet. If you're interested, let us know.
Steve, what age group is this aimed at?
Age.
School kids.
The group age is 2 to 8.
Could you say that again? I didn't quite catch that.
2 to 8. The
Oh,
group age is 2 to 8. Right.
So then, some of them would be like preschoolers that would be there, in the morning and so forth,
Right.
and then the older kids later
Right.
on?
So in the morning, when older children are in school, it'll be geared towards younger crowd. And then, like I said, 3 to 6, it'll be for older children, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The hard thing I have wrapping my head around is the parking analysis, because we don't know what's in the strip or going to go in that strip. So the customers, the applicant's saying, well, their peak use time is 3 to 6 p.m. Say it's 4 restaurants. everybody comes in for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. Now we're overlapping peak use of dinner and peak use of facility.
Well, the original, just if I explain, the original analysis, we actually assigned, we assigned square footages for each of the uses. And so we took, X number of square feet for restaurant, X number of square feet for office, X number of square feet for retail, and then we also have the residential component. So we took those 4 uses and analyzed the demands throughout through the weekday and then the weekend. So we, assuming that we're still keeping those numbers, which we would in this future analysis, you'll know that for the 1,500 square foot of restaurant and whatever the office was, we'll have identified the square footage and we'll identify the need for those uses.
My recollection was that we had this discussion, and I thought we established, because the restaurant use had the highest requirement for parking, that was a maximum that you were allowed in
Correct.
terms of the restaurant space. So your fear is well-founded, but I think the previous action limited them on the amount of restaurant space they had the opportunity to have. I don't see that on this plan, but I thought it was on the original one.
It is, no, it's just under 1,500 square feet. It's 1,479 square feet of gross restaurant area, because then you have to take the service area.
But I'm wondering about that being a maximum. I don't know if we just had it crafted in the resolution. I thought we had it on the plan too, but we'll have to take a look. But I think that was a maximum.
But we assumed that this was the max, and I can't recall, I don't have the resolution in front of me, but we can check.
Can we find out from,
We will, but I think that the most important thing is to get a parking analysis, looks at the uses that are permitted. You're not going to know which retail use is going to come in there. You just don't know. And I think we use the example of a Verizon store or something coming in, which gets a lot of traffic, or maybe, some other kind of store, a bookstore that may not get as many people, parking there. So you don't know. You have to work on generalities. This one, we happen to have a specific use, and so I think we should consider that with the other generic uses if we can.
so parking analysis, what else?
There wasn't much else, quite frankly. You had an opinion from Gary that this is a personal service use. There was a question that we had too when we looked at it. We talked to Gary. Gary gave an opinion based upon both the language in the code as well as past practice, and said this is a personal service business. And that's all I have on that.
Anybody have any other questions for the applicant or for Dennis? Do you want any other details from, about what's going on inside, or are we comfortable? We'll have Rick.
If I may, I hate to cloud the issue, but we did get a request from the applicant for a modest field change on a parallel. It was separate and apart from this. There it is. It was 2 simple items. They wanted to put in, they have a pipe that's underground that runs past the corner. All they wanted to do is put a drain and connect it to the pipe. And on the other side, there was a request for a ramp for a tactile surface to put an ADA accessible path to the front of the building. I think it could have proceeded as a field change. However, since they have an application now, they might as well throw it on the plan and we'll wrap it all up with one.
Right, and one other item too.
Yes.
So what Dennis was referring to is there was the existing, or the originally approved drainage system had a catch basin here and a pipe to a manhole. We would like to actually add an additional catch basin to pick up some of the water running down this side of the curb line. We've also just put on the plan, this is a header for the roof leaders, and then that's tying back into the roof drain, so that's now just on plan. It's a cleanup item. And then in the front, when we cited the building, we had a detailed topographical map, but it's at 1 and 2 foot contour intervals. Now we're talking, inches of pitch between the existing sidewalk and existing roadway. So on 1, 2, 3, 4 of the entrances going in, we're going to have a set of stairs with a rail on it. So they'll just be right in the front there. Handicap accessibility is still from the back, and that's no problem there.
That's close to the curb. Do we still maintain sidewalk width with a step and A railing?
Oh, yeah, the sidewalk is, actually, the sidewalk is on the state right-of-way,
Yeah.
so it's off-site. And then we come in probably, I would say 10 feet, I believe, to the first set of stairs. You know, turn from existing sidewalk, a 10-foot transition, set of stairs, and then another 10-foot transition to the building.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time picturing it.
Okay, you're going to have to put all that on the drawing. I didn't see the roof leaders before. They weren't on the plan that I got. At least I didn't see them. So,
They were on, I think they were from a memo from you, actually. Asked to have them
roof
put on.
leaders there? Or maybe we asked for them.
Yeah, I think
okay.
somebody from the office asked for it.
Okay.
So there's gonna be steps in the front of the building? So
The-
there's gonna be,
Three sets of
is
risers.
there, from the public sidewalk into the building, is there handicap access?
Handicap is from the back.
But even though the sidewalk is a public sidewalk?
These are, like, the unit goes front and back, so, you know, access is going to either be from the back parking lot or from public access from the sidewalk.
So there's no handicap access at the front of the building?
Correct.
I think that's it.
But we have access to the units have access from both front and back.
But the storefront's the front,
Correct.
right?
But well, this is a double, I mean, the parking, so the code doesn't require us, the comprehensive plan asks that when you redevelop in the Hamlet zone, is that you look to create a front yard, or a minimum front yard, or front yard equal to the buildings on both sides of it, which we did, and that they want you to put the parking in the back of the building, as opposed to in the front of the building. And we did, through the process, we looked at the alternative of putting the building back and putting the parking in the front, but the preferred alternative was this alternative.
Plan right, next to the driveway, there's no steps required from the sidewalk to the building, is that right?
For this one,
Not for the back, for the new building, to the left.
no steps.
Front yard,
Front yard,
yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Back to the right, that entrance right there.
no steps.
Well, that could be handicapped.
Oh, yes, that could be handicap, I'm sorry, that could be handicap accessible. Because what's happened, the road is going down, so,
Right.
but
That
yeah,
would be- So if someone was on the sidewalk, they would have handicap accessibility
Correct.
from that point.
correct.
Only to that unit, though.
Only to that unit.
Yeah, that's a single unit. They're split up down below. So that unit you can get in, the other units, you have to come in from the rear.
Correct.
There's not a front patio or porch or some, that's what you're
Well, there's a front landing, you know, at each door.
saying. Each door, but they're not all
vestibule.
connected.
No.
I see.
So is to make it look like separate, you know, sort of separate facades.
New building,
Yeah,
isn't that a building?
there's a new building.
So,
Missed that.
we're gonna need, I need to see it on a drawing. I'm having a hard time picturing putting the steps and the railing in the front there. I don't know about anybody else.
But- So it didn't have steps and railing before, now you're asking for it.
We're asking to,
But it was our understanding that you would have great access at the front of the building, now that you can't.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
that's what we're asking for.
I need to see it on a drawing. I can't, I know, but I can't picture it in my head what it's gonna look like. And I have to go and look over there, because to me, it's close to the curb, so.
And it's almost a foot, so it'd be a 12-foot ramp.
Well, so from edge of existing, inside edge of sidewalk to building is probably about 20 feet.
And you're having 3 steps, 3 risers, or 2 risers?
There's 3 risers, I think 3 and 4.
So about 22 inches or so?
Yeah. And, and again, there's no facilities for handicap, parking in the front. I mean, we provided those facilities in the back. And then both buildings are handicap accessible.
I think there's a note in the code about handicap accessibility should be in the front, not necessarily in the back, somewhere along the line. I don't know, like, it's the front of the
Well, I know there's a distance from where the parking facilities are provided to where you have to get to the door. And I know that the location of these two spaces meet that dimension.
Well, you could slope the sidewalk, it doesn't have to be AD, I mean, you don't necessarily, it could be universally designed rather than steps. Steps are a bad thing, especially if it's on 3.
Right.
If there was a slope the sidewalk instead.
I believe the site engineer looked at trying to slope them, to a reasonable slope, and the alternative.
You couldn't go straight slope, I don't think. Okay, they have to take a look at it. You're allowed certain grades and slopes. You have to come to a platform in a certain distance. If you're over 5%, you have to have handrails on it. You'd probably end up with some kind of switchback in front. I think you probably could make it ADA accessible, but it may not be the front that they want to look at. But I have talked to Gary about it to make sure that it's code compliant in the front.
Yes, actually.
You have.
Hi, I'm Jerry Cassessa. I'm actually the builder for the project. We did speak to Gary about it. We do have 28 inches of rise at the highest point, and if we were to make that an ADA compliant ramp, it requires 28 feet. You can only go 25 feet before you need a 6-foot landing, or a switchback, as we say. And that would you'd be in the center of the building, have a large switchback, and then more sidewalks connecting a 188-foot-long building. So the minimum impact would be to keep the handicap accessibility off of the parking lot for the facility next to where the 88 parking spaces have been designed. We looked at any which way we can figure this out, and from the site, there was no logical way to make it ADA compliant, nor does it have to be. So we went back to the engineers and asked them what we should do about this, and they came up with the stair program, as you see. Even if I were to go a ramp at 28 inches over 18 feet, it's going to be too steep. You get a little ice or anything like that, it is pretty steep. So
Okay, and Gary says that the access through the back is code compliant if it's not in the front, but if it's
Right.
provided in the rear?
Right. And they have, when they do the code review, they have maximum distance to any egress, and I believe it has to be less than 75 feet. The building's only 52 feet deep. So the one egressable exit from the rear of the building, which leads you out to the parking lot, is within the code requirement of the 75 feet travel distance. So for code it meets, it's just we have to do it for the site work.
I mean, to me, it sounds like it's Rick, Dennis, it's like we're doing two different things here. One, we're trying to, for site plan for a new use. And then we're also trying to modify a site plan for.
Well, I think now you have an amended site plan. There's a little bit more going on here than a field change. I had no problem with the drain, I had no problem with a few other things, but there's a couple other things here. I think the access is something you'd want to look at. I'm going to want to talk to Gary about that, just touch base with him. The other parts for the new use, I think you got to get that parking analysis into the board, and amended site plan would require a hearing, so we can schedule, if the board wants to, a hearing. It's not, there's not that much more information you're going to get. The site's basically established, okay? It's underway. So I think those things, you could probably have a hearing, you discuss it, and try to move on it from there. But it wouldn't be the next meeting, because they still have to get materials in, so it'd be the meeting after that.
So the November 6th meeting then.
So we're going to split it to be two separate applications, is that correct?
No, it'd be.
No, I think
it
you
would
could
be
put it all in one.
Yeah, one
Any
application.
reason not to?
It seemed like it was,
I heard two.
Well, we're proceeding with one application, even though it's two. It sounds like two distinct things.
I think they can amend, well, it's a site plan, all right, that we're amending a site plan.
Okay.
The site plan has a use, that they're proposing, a personal service use now, that has certain requirements that impact the site plan, and they want to make some other changes to that site plan. All of it falls under an amended, as far as I see, an amended site plan for this application, this parcel.
Okay.
Now, you could approve the use and not approve some other things. I mean, that's up to you, depending upon what you see here. But I think it's in the applicant's interest and yours to expedite the application and to have you take an overall look at everything and have one application.
Would you be able to have the parking analysis in time for?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So then I'll offer a motion for a public hearing for November 6th for the amended site plan application for this applicant.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Just for you, Steve, there is an extra week in between, so you'd have to have materials in by the 23rd. It gives you a little more time.
Not a problem. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Now, on seeker, previously this was given a negative declaration.
Right.
There is some different uses. I think it's probably that you continue to go ahead and conclude that it was a negative declaration. But if you want to either declare that or ask us to prepare an amended negative declaration given the new uses, we can do that.
I'll go with the amended.
Okay, so we'll prepare, for your review, we'll prepare a negative declaration that will include the new uses. Okay.
Anything else, anybody? Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No one ever says no to that.
I'm going to be traveling next meeting. So, I still going to have a floor. Pictures of this.
Will you be here, was it October? Next meeting. Will you guys have to be here for the next meeting?
I only missed one meeting.
Okay, I'm just asking. He's traveling, so I want to make sure we have enough.